Hi guys, welcome back to Enginerds YouTube channel. My name is Patricia Bermudez and I'll be your host for today's video. So for today's video, we will be discussing the second law of thermodynamics, specifically entropy. So entropy is actually the measure of spontaneity in a system. So the problem states that a 40 kilogram steel casting, which has a specific heat of 0.5 kilojoules per kilogram Kelvin at a temperature of 450 degrees Celsius, is quenched or nilubog in 150 kilograms of oil, which has a specific heat of 2.5 kilojoules per kilogram Kelvin at 25 degrees Celsius. If there are no heat losses, what is the entropy change of the casting? And what is the entropy change in the oil? So first, we have to know that is if there are no heat losses, meaning walang heat na natatanggal to the surroundings, kung ano yung nagsisirculate within the system, yun lang yung nagsisirculate in there. So the only heat exchange that happens is the one that occurs between the casting and the oil. So first is we have to identify which one is the hotter object, okay? So the hotter object is the casting kasi mas mataas ang 450 degrees Celsius sa 25. Okay, so casting at 450 degrees Celsius. And since it is the hotter object, it is also the one that will lose heat kasi heat transfers from a hotter object to a colder object, di ba? So yung hotter object natin will give heat and therefore it will lose heat. So it will lose heat. And this means that the Q of this one will be negative. Kasi mababawasan na, okay? And the colder object here will be the oil, which is at 25 degrees Celsius. And this one will be the one that it will gain heat. And therefore, yung Q niya ay positive. And since walang heat that is lost to the surroundings, kung ano yung heat that is lost here, it's also the heat that will be gained by the oil. So they are equal, okay? Because the both of them will reach thermal equilibrium. And because of that, and since the problem is also asking for entropy, which is a function of temperature, we have to find T2. And we have to know that T2 is equal for casting and the oil kasi nga they will reach thermal equilibrium. Okay? After they reach thermal equilibrium, wala ng exchange of heat and yun na yung final temp ng dalawa. So first, we have to find the final temperature, which is the same for both. And how do we do that? We equate negative Q of the casting to the positive Q of the oil. And what's the formula for Q? It is mCp delta T. Okay, so we just substitute this formula here. So it will be negative mCp T2 minus T1 of casting is equals to mCp T2 minus T1 of oil. Okay, so T2 casting is equals to T2 of the oil. So we just substitute the values that are given in the problem. So yung M ng steel casting natin is 40 kilograms. Tapos yung CP is 0.5 kilojoules. 4.5 kilojoules per kilogram Kelvin. And then the change in temperature is T2 minus the initial, which is 450 Kelvin. The change in temperature in Celsius is equal to the change in temperature in Kelvin. Okay, so you don't need to convert it into Kelvin. So and but when it comes to difference, but when you're talking about the ratio or yung fractions, you have to convert it in Kelvin. But if you're talking about the difference, then you don't have to. So yung M ng oil natin is 150 kilograms. And then yung CP is 2.5 kilojoules per kilogram Kelvin. And then the change is T2 minus the initial, which is 25. Yan. So before you compute, you have to check if the equation is dimensionally homogeneous, meaning kung ano yung units sa kabila, ayun din yung units on the other side. So first is makakancel yung kilogram, makakancel yung Kelvin, matitira yung kilojoule. Then on the other side, makakancel ang kilogram, makakancel ang Kelvin, matitira din ang kilojoule. So pareho sila na matitira, then we can cancel it off. Kasi if you're gonna divide it here, makakancel din naman siya. So we can verify na they're dimensionally homogeneous, and therefore we can equate the equation that we created. So yan. Now we're gonna find T2. So negative 40 times yung CP, which is 0.5, times T2 minus 450 is equal to 150 kilogram. Ay, wala na palang unit. Sorry. Dahil na-cancel na natin siya. 150 times yung CP ng oil, which is 2.5, and then T2 minus the initial temp, which is 25. Okay? So ito, negative 40 times 0.5 is negative 20. T2 minus 450 is equals to 150 times 2.5, 375. T2 minus 25. And then the next step is to distribute this to both sides of to both of the variables inside the parenthesis, and then this one also to distribute inside. Okay. So ayan, negative 20 T2 plus negative times negative magiging plus 9,000 is equals to 375 T2 minus 375 times 25, which is 9375. Okay? So, ilalagay natin lahat na may T2 on one side and then leave the rest on the other side. So, negative 20 T2 minus 375 T2 is equal to negative 9,375 minus 9,000. So, T2, factor mo siya. Actually, I'm gonna just do some shortcuts. T2 is equals to negative 1875 over, itong dalawang to, negative 20 minus 375. Kasi finactor mo na yung T2. And that'll be our T2 here. So, negative 1875 over negative 20 minus 375. It is may mali. I forgot to put the 3. Okay. And the temperature is 46.51898,734 degrees Celsius. Kasi yung T1 natin for both the oil and the casting is in degrees Celsius. So, yun din yung unit ng T2 natin. Okay? And then the next step is to derive the formula for the change in entropy. So, ang change in entropy natin in differential form is ds is equals to dq over t. And we know that dq is mcp dt over t. So, we integrate both sides. It'll be s is equals to mcp ln of t. But if we have a boundary, for example, t1 and t2, okay, t2 and t1, then it will become mcp ln t2 minus mcp ln t1. And we can factor that out, mcp, and then ln t2 minus ln t1 from the law of logarithm would be t2 ln of t2 over t1. Okay? So that is our formula that we're going to use. And then now we just have to substitute. So substitute. So ang hinahanap ng una is the entropy change of the casting. So the delta S of casting is equal to mcp ln, sorry, T2 minus T1 of casting. And it will be 40 kilograms times 0.5 kilojoules per kilogram Kelvin times ln. Yung T2, we have to, then we have to convert it into Kelvin. So how do we convert? We just add 275.15 kasi this is a fraction. We're not talking about the difference. We're talking about the ratio of the two temperatures. So yung T2 natin is 46, right? 46.519. Okay. Let's just round it off. So 46.519 plus 273.15 over, this will be in Kelvin, over yung initial temperature na 450 plus 273.15, which is also in Kelvin. Ayan. If we're gonna substitute, or if we're gonna check for the consistency in the units, dapat yung sa ln mo makancel. Okay? Tapos dito, makakancel yung kilogram. So ang unit ng entropy natin is in kilojoules per Kelvin. Yung unit ng entropy is always energy over the unit in temperature, which is, for this one, it's Kelvin. So kilojoules per Kelvin. Okay? So let's calculate the delta S, or the change in entropy of the casting, then becomes 40 times 0.5 times ln of 46.519 plus 273.15 over 450 plus 273.15. And that is negative 16.32661168 kilojoules per Kelvin. So that is our A. So this is our answer for A. Okay. And then we're just going to do the same for B, which is for the oil. So delta S of the oil is equals to mCp ln T2 T1 oil. So we know that M is 150 kilograms, then Cp is 2.5 kilojoules per kilogram Kelvin, times ln T2 natin is the same, diba? So 46.519 plus 273.15, and all of this is in Kelvin, over initial temperature is 25 plus 273.15 Kelvin as well. And then we just cancel the units here. Kelvin will cancel. Kilogram will cancel. Ang matitira ay kilojoules per Kelvin again. So calculating, we have 150 times 2.5 times ln of 46.519 plus 270.5 over, it is 26.1335137 kilojoules per Kelvin. And if you can see, ang in-indicate natin kanina, negative Q yung casting, di ba? And here, yung change in entropy natin ay negative as well. So, ano siya, corresponding sa nakuha natin kanina or sa na-analyze natin kanina. And then, yung delta S here is positive ng oil. Delta S ng oil is positive. So, it's the same. So, that's one way you can verify if your answer is correct. So, that is our solution for the problem. Thank you for listening and stay tuned for the next one. Bye-bye.